We haven't done a generative AI video in a while, so I think we should do that today. Let's talk about some of the problems that generative AI still has. And for the date reference, this is winter of 2024-2025. It does not look like winter, but I show you it is, global warming and all. So let's talk about that today. So the first problem still exists in generative AI is consistency. If you run a query, if you ask a question, if you ask it to review a document, you can get different results on different days. Now, if you run in a local model, you can change the creativity parameter all the way down, and your results are going to be consistent as long as you don't change that model. However, most people do document review or ask questions on online model. And because of that, the results cannot be consistent from day to day. So one reason I already mentioned, that's your creativity setting, right? You can control how creative you want model to be. And there is a certain number of randomness, certain amount of randomness, I should say, that's built into generative AI. This way, it does generate different answers every time you ask, and it makes it more sort of creative, interactive, or whichever. But that doesn't go well with consistency. Now, the second reason why we get different answers is because the model and its safeguards is being tuned all the time. So you can have people report like, oh, for like last 3 days, the model has been acting weird or giving me these weird answers. Well, it's because the owners of the model, they're tweaking settings. Maybe somebody figured out a way to bypass certain safeguards. So now they're trying to figure out what they can do to kind of fix it, and they take it too far, not enough, and so on. So the model is being changed and tweaked all the time. And so if you, for example, use generative AI for review and you ask it to review a document, you may get different response one day from running it a few days later. Now, is it actually going to affect how the document classified responsive, non-responsive? Maybe not, but the responses you're going to get from generative AI model will be different in general. Another item we talked about a while ago is asking generative AI to do an exact tasks. The model cannot count number of R's in a word strawberry. It cannot do math. If you give it a list of first name, last name, and then say, can you switch it last name to first name? It may do it, it may not. It's not able to perform exact tasks. It can hallucinate, swap values around, do all kinds of weird things. So asking it to do something, like I said a million times, exact may not work well. Next problem, results of a language model require human review. So when you send a query to the model, you receive some kind of response. You cannot just take that result and use it for something. You can ask it to summarize a document, but once document is summarized, you cannot take that summary and assume it's correct unless you looked at it. And I don't care how many times salespeople will tell you hallucination problem has not been solved. Even if you use RAG, it doesn't matter. Models can still hallucinate. The summaries could still come back wrong. There's been a recent case where large language model was used to transcribe an audio conversation, and then during moments of silence, it was hallucinated, which is crazy. I guess it didn't like awkward silences, right? So the other question is going to be, well, what about document review, right? That's kind of the point of it. We want to send the query to the model and receive some kind of information about the document. So are you saying that we cannot trust whatever large language model returns to you? And I say kind of yes. What you have to do is either have human review afterwards, which isn't practical with document review, because that's the whole point of not having humans. But the other things you can do is you can have computer take the results that you get from large language model and analyze it in a way to detect hallucinations, to detect different problems. Now, that's a complicated topic that I'm not ready to dive into it, but that's something that can be done. So we automating analysis of the response from a large language model to make sure it is not like way off somewhere. And the last problem for today's list, mistakes cost money. Now, they always do, but it's especially true with generative AI. So if you remember with the old sort of TAR model, when we would analyze it, and you would pay a vendor per document, let's say, to analyze documents. If you say, okay, I don't like the results, you want to reanalyze them again or rerun some queries, you don't pay any more for a document. Once you pay for a document, you can run it through the model as many times as you want. That's not true for generative AI. Anytime you send a query, you have to pay for it. And that honestly seems to be one of the bigger turnoffs of generative AI. But the reason for that is it costs money to analyze a document, and anytime you do it, you have to pay for it. But if you misconfigure your settings, misconfigure your prompt, and you send 10,000 documents to be analyzed, well, you're paying for this 10,000. And if you, once you receive the results, you look at them and you're like, oh no, this is not good, or I missed something, I needed to have more entities or something else, well, it's too late now. You have to redo your prompt and you have to pay for 10,000 documents again, which is why a lot of companies create different types of workflow for this. They may use generative AI on small document sets and maybe some traditional tar review, and then there are different ways to approach this problem. Again, that's something for me to investigate in the future. I'm not very familiar with that just yet. But the point is, mistakes cost money. While it seems on the surface it's very easy to build your own generative AI app, it's actually more difficult than it seems. Problems come up all the time, and you have to have different workarounds to compensate for problems of the generative AI models. What kind of problems can you think of that I didn't mention? Put them in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow on LinkedIn, subscribe on YouTube, and I will see you on another video.